just do regular introduction.
All right. Welcome back to Patch Notes, the Homegames podcast. I'm Yazeed. This is Joseph. Episode 2, subtitle still to be decided. What was the subtitle for the last episode?
I don't know. I still haven't edited that yet, but I know that we talked about something in there.
We talked about throwing up in a while.
Yeah, that was it was cleaning vomit out of a hydro flask, but I don't think that'll, like, when we were submitting the podcast to the little, like, you know, the RSS feed to all the services and stuff, and it was like pending approval, and I realized that we had the word idiots in the title of the first one. So it's like, oh, maybe there's like a weird rule against, you know, rude language or whatever. So maybe vomiting in a hydro flask won't be allowed. But we made it through, so I don't know.
Did it? Or the idiots one made it through?
Yeah, the idiots one made it through.
I don't think idiots. I think vomiting into a hydro flask maybe we shouldn't do. We'll figure out a different one. But speaking of the RSS feeds and stuff like that, we're official. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever.
I can get the whole list if you like.
Oh yeah, if you have a whole list, that'd be sick.
We talked about wanting to host all this ourselves and stuff, but just to kind of get it off the ground, since time is limited, I used some service that'll basically do all this stuff for us. So let's see. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn with Alexa, Google Podcasts, which is odd because that one's weird. It just scrapes the internet for podcasts. You can't actually submit to them. And then according to this thing, once listed in Apple Podcasts, your podcast will automatically be available in Overcast, Pocket Cast, Castro,
Jesus,
Castbox, and Podchaser. So apparently anybody on all of those services, and I think iHeartRadio is still pending, can listen to us, which is pretty wild.
That's pretty sick. Yeah, I mean, there's also our Twitter and our email that you can email us to.
Yeah, the social stuff I always have linked in the app because I was like, oh, anybody who would ever want to find us on Twitter would be running the game. Oh, but it kind of creates this, like, I don't know, weird challenge. It's like, if you want to find our Twitter, you gotta run our app first. So we should probably put that out some other place. So yeah, we have a Twitter at homegames.io or homegames.io. We also have a subreddit. It's just called Homegames. And then, yeah, we have an email address for this called, it's just podcast@homegames.io. So if you have questions or comments or whatever, you can send an email there and I will read it because I don't know if Yazeed has access to it yet.
I may or may not, but it's okay because if you do send in viewer questions, we'll get to them at the end of the core part of the show, probably. Do we have any other announcements? The schedule. No. The schedule.
Oh yeah. So we just uploaded episode 0, which just is kind of funny because we recorded that 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago.
No, it's only been 4 weeks, dude.
No, because we went to Louisiana early to mid-September.
Maybe you're right. I honestly don't know what day of the week it is.
Or maybe it was October. I don't know, dude. I have no perception of time.
It's true.
Anyway, it was a while ago. I said, okay, well, I was just listening to it again, and I said I'm about to play Gears of War. So it was just before Gears 5 came out. Gears 5 has been out for a little bit. So anyway, we recorded that then. Just finally kind of edited and got everything moving officially. So we have episode 1, like I mentioned earlier. I still have to edit that and then submit that on Wednesday. So I think that'll be kind of the thing is recording on a Saturday and then editing for about a week and a half or so, kind of giving us a buffer to handle whatever, and then releasing that next Wednesday. So it's yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So there's a 1.5 week delay per episode to when it's on streaming services.
Right. Another thing that we talk about is really topical. It doesn't really, there's no of the moment conversation. Maybe that's a knock against what we're talking about or what we're doing. But like nothing really depends on the time. It's just the things that we did on home games in that window.
Yeah. So it's more like what's the status of home games versus what's going on in the world.
Right.
Cool.
So we should also announce the date, I guess is what I'm saying. In our intros, we should be like, I'm whatever my name is, and then you're Yazeed, and then today is date. And it'll be weird for everybody listening, but at least you'll get a night, like you'll know when we recorded it.
Oh yeah, because today is October 26th, 20K19. Right. That way, that's not right.
2019.
That's 2K19.
So ahead of our time.
Jeez. Yeah. It's Saturday morning. Actually like 10:30 right now at this point. Jeez. I'm late. 10:30 a.m.
It's like the third week in a row where it's like
I don't think
9 a.m.
I don't think I should
I'm on
say
at 9 a.m.
anymore. I should just be like, it's 10, dude. Like I'm not gonna I can't get out of bed on a weekend at 9 a.m. Why like 8 a.m.
That's fine.
It's hard. I don't know how you do it because you see, all right, this is like one of the big differences between me and Joseph. He has a really strict policy that on the weekends he wakes up as early as possible to get as much weekend as possible. And I take the opposite approach of I stay up as late as possible to get as much weekend as possible. Which means I also wake up late usually. But I go to sleep earlier specifically for home games. I think maybe I just need to get in like the rhythm of it a little bit more. Because we had like a long break, and we had last week and then this week. So next week I'm out of town. So the week after that, maybe I'll be on track.
So when are we going to record next week? I could do a solo podcast. I'll just record myself juggling for like 30 minutes.
I kind of want to see you do a solo podcast. Or we could record... I leave Thursday night and I get back Sunday at some point. So if you're okay with Sunday like late, that's cool. Or like Wednesday also late because I visit my mom.
Sure, whatever. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Whatever. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll talk about that probably like after, or like I'll text you.
We should figure out how that works though, because it's like the whole we have lives thing, but we gotta put out stuff.
Yeah, I mean we'll make it work.
Yeah, even if it's like a 5-minute. I did work on home games. That Kanye album's pretty good.
How was the Kanye? No, we'll get to that at the end when we're doing the outro. So one of the things we really wanted to revisit was our dashboard conversation from the last podcast / last time we talked about it. We kind of had a text conversation about it as well. But the idea was that we switched the idea for the dashboard from like a master who contains a bunch of game nodes to being a game list where you pick out a game and that game becomes instantiated and runs. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was the conversation. Yes.
Yeah. So the thing is, looking back on that conversation, I actually always thought we were going to do the one game list. I never thought we were going to have multiple game instances running on one home game.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so that was kind of the whole thing was originally it was there's only one game running at any time. And I guess that kind of makes sense for right now because we have no games yet, and that the point is to kind of get to that point, then we should be making the decisions to, be fast about everything else. But the whole thing was everything is just one game at a time running on a home games instance. If you go to homegames.link, you either create or you join one game. And then I got some feedback from potential customers, aka I asked like Senovia and 2 other people, well, would you think that you can play, it's kind of like a list of games that you can create and join any of them, so you can have any number of running instances of any game available in home games on one server. So that was the question, and then it was okay, well, how do we do that? And then that was the whole conversation of should I have a master server that allocates other servers to players and brings up rooms along with game sessions. So yeah, I guess if like for context, that's what that whole thing was.
Oh, okay. So,
yeah.
yeah, I actually didn't think we wanted to run multiple game instances. Mostly because I thought what we wanted was for like everyone in under like everyone on Wi-Fi at a location would be playing the games together, basically. Like playing the game together. Like they'd be all playing the same game.
I thought about like that was the intention too, but then I thought about, okay, well, what about a group of 10 people? You know, like whatever. Basically, the number of people who want to play is not the number of people who can play a specific game. Because I don't think I want to put player restrictions on games. You can have it to be, 1 to however many home games can support, which is 255 at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I guess it's like, well, what if everybody wants to play a one-player game? For some reason that's what someone built for home games. I think we should allow that. And then I also think, what if we build just checkers or something? And like I said, there's a lot of people want to play checkers. You can't have multiple instances of checkers unless you spin up multiple home games instances, and people will do that if they need to, but we should make it easy to. Basically, I'm saying we should just include that in the design, because I think people will want to use it like that.
Okay, that makes sense. Does that change then, like, how I want to address this? Like, do we want to do the one game list now and then address the, like, multi-instance later? Or do you think we should just push out the timeline a little bit more and address the multi-instance?
I think we should finish the card game. Mm-hmm. So we can talk about that in a little bit, but I think we should get one, because the class structure is the same way. I mean, it's structured in this kind of idea that a game server has a game session that runs a game. So at that point, we can, if we flesh out this whole thing, then we can kind of go one step above that and say, okay, well, a game server manager manages game servers, and game servers already work because we have one game server running a card game. So then this master game server would essentially be doing all that logic to allocate servers, but it would also be responsible for doing that UI of a dashboard, which we could figure out how to do that. But I think that we'll have better tools to build a dashboard within home games, like in the actual node server with the squisher. Mm-hmm. Once we build at least one game, be like, okay, mm-hmm. well, I can have something with images that are clickable and maybe basic animations or something like that, on as tools to build a dashboard, which we can't really do right now, because I think, at least in my head, I've been procrastinating building a real application with this because I just know that there's so much unknown there. So I'm trying to do everything except build the core. But I'm getting up there, It's been months. Time is passing, and it's like, okay, well, I can't really just keep wasting time like that. We just have to build a proof of concept that really matters, really works. Yeah.
Okay. Real quick before you go on, when you said that the max number of players is 255, that's because we're using an unsigned int, right?
Yeah, it's really just like there's no real reason for that limit. It's just because in the game payload, now that we have basically just one index in that game payload to say the player ID, basically it's 0 if all players can see it, or the player ID. So then I guess it's it's still 255. So yeah, basically it's just one spot allocated for that, and since it's an unsigned 8int or 8-bit int, it's a 0 to 255 is the limit, which is 256 actual numbers. But if you have 0 for all players, then your limit is 255 unique players, at least for the current squisher to work. But it's pretty easy to make that 2 or 3 or whatever to increase the space in like the home games header, the frame header.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I think when you said that it's either 0 or the player ID. Shouldn't it be like 0 or an array of player IDs?
Yeah, I just hit that yesterday where I was like, oh, some people should be able to see this. So yes, probably. And that kind of, I was trying to rewrite the Squisher last night because I hit a bug because I really hate all that Squisher code. It's so ugly and so bad. Like if I were to join, this is a tangent, but if I were to start reading someone's side project and read that Squisher code, I'd be like, this is trash. These guys like running a podcast should be like fired from whatever they're doing, because it's just so bad. There's just counters and numbers, and it's like, oh, text is when the frame size is over 12, but every frame is over 12, and it's like, anyway, it's just a bad code base, and all that stuff. So I was trying to rewrite it yesterday to make it make more sense, and I hit that thing of, okay, a game node needs to have multiple player IDs. So that seems like a V2 Squisher thing, but yes.
What would be like the main cleanup for it that you'd want to see on the Squisher then?
I think I should be able to define a class like I already do game node, and this game node has, I actually have the little notebook right here. It's funny that you ask.
Oh snap!
But it's basically it's essentially the game node has optional text, asset, location, and size. Right, all these things are optional. It could have any or none of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then text just has a position, which would be 2 spaces, 2 bytes, I guess, of X and Y, and then size is 2 bytes X and Y, and yeah, and then font is optional. So yeah, I guess an asset would be the same type of thing, except it's got an asset reference that would be required, not a font that's optional. So then these all have sizes. You can like, you can malloc them or whatever. Basically say this is my game node, and it has these properties. And then the Squisher is able to say, okay, well, I see your game node, and I see that is 12 bytes, and I'm gonna be able to encode that information in this Homegames frame that has a header, like a common header that says, here is in this frame where the text is and where the location like of this thing is. Basically just encode the data into a frame with a header that tells the client how to read that frame. The same way that it currently gets length, it should be kind of more robust in that way to include optional attributes. You know what I mean?
This
like,
really does remind me of like Internet Protocol. Where you
yeah,
have like the header size, then the header body and stuff.
Well, because it's like I didn't realize it because I don't know what I'm doing ever. I was looking into sending over data over a WebSocket to the client, and then it was like, oh, I have to encode it as a uint 8 whatever. And I remember from school what an unsigned 8-bit integer is, but like I don't process things like that. So I was like, oh yeah, I don't know. I'm just making it different. And then all the data just started coming through in a list of numbers. And I started reading those numbers, and then in Chrome, it's like, oh, hey, we have binary inspection on WebSockets. I was like, oh, this is binary. Like we're writing like a protocol to encode like data over whatever. It's like, we're doing tech guy stuff. We're doing smart guy stuff.
My favorite part of that is that you literally just described recreating Internet Protocol, and I know the way you got there wasn't starting with Internet Protocol and be like, how should we use this? It was like the other way of like, how should we do this? Let's do it this way. Oh, I found Internet Protocol.
I've got it. We've invented the internet. We've invented HTTP.
I do think that's a good idea. I like that because it's, to me, it's a standard thing anyway. So leveraging kind of like a standard like that is probably a good idea in the first place. And logically, it makes sense to me as well.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a big deal. And see, this is why in the last podcast, we also said maybe don't worry about rewriting the Squisher, because we already had ideas. And also, like, we knew we were going to have to rewrite a ton of stuff anyway.
Right. Yeah, especially because it's just so broken. I mean, the process up to this point has been build a proof of concept based on the common squisher logic and all the common rendering logic and game node logic. Okay, got that working. Well, now I want to build something else on top of it. No, but this thing works, so I'm going to build I'm going to stand up a new thing that works kind of like this thing, but then adds the new thing. Okay, I built that proof of concept. Oh, it broke the old one? Well, I don't care because this one's different. This one's, newer. So then it basically ends up being every proof of concept is broken by the new one because it's all running this common logic, which at this point has been just beat up every single time I want to change it. I just go in and comment something out or update the magic numbers and don't document it, or forget to update the other magic numbers and then create bugs, and all this is in my head. So it's just like it's a mess.
Luckily we're documenting it via podcast form.
Yeah. Luckily this is a useful form of documentation for any programmer. It's just like, man, what is this line doing? Better go listen to the podcast at minute 30 or at the 30-minute mark.
I don't think that's valuable, but I mean, if we ever wrote like a text-to-speech translator, it'd become instantaneously useful.
It's actually a feature on the service that we're using to put these up on the thing. It's 10 cents a minute to transcribe the audio.
10 cents a minute.
It's pretty pricey.
Like 3 hours of recording and then like an hour and 20 minutes of content. That's a lot of cents a minute.
Yeah.
That's $1.
Another thing is that we only get 12 hours a month of podcast time. So I know that we'll never hit 3 hours a week, or we shouldn't because that's a lot. But I don't like that limit. So that's kind of why I want to move off of that stuff eventually, because I want the freedom to upload a 30-hour podcast if I want to.
Oh, you said 12 hours a month?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that. If there's 12 hours a week, that's a lot of podcasts. We don't do that much. We don't have that much time.
No. If we were doing 12 hours a week, this would have to be like our full-time job, or we'd have to just have completely lost our minds, and this is all we do at the end of the day.
We could do that every day after work. We just come home and hop on and start podcasting.
Yeah, just tired and stressed out. She's just like, all right, well, let's talk about this side project that we have no energy to work on right now, and we're like mad.
Haven't had dinner yet. Just got back from the gym or whatever. You're exhausted, just sitting down trying to talk. I think that's a recipe for disaster.
45 minutes to get 6 miles in this nightmare of a city.
Oh, that's brutal.
Anyway,
luckily I don't have that problem. Okay, so reworking Squisher, going over the dashboard stuff. The last thing I have on the core is, wow, we're flying through this. We gotta slow down. But
only 32 minutes. We're actually going pretty good. And then once we cut out the trash in the beginning, where you said that thing about my family,
oh my god.
They'll never know because I'm the editor.
I know, you're the editor, and this is the best because I'm stupid, but Jesus. Thank you for editing, by the way. I do appreciate it.
I don't know what I'm doing. I just use Audacity and I trim all the audio that I don't like. So it's most of the parts where Yazeed's talking, and I'll just select most of that out and trim.
The last thing I had on like the core was the player list branch, which is something that you just put out like last night, and I reviewed this morning.
Oh, did you? Did you write comments on it?
I didn't write any comments on it because it's not a pull request. It's just a comparison.
Oh, yeah. That's I told you last night on Discord, but that code is hot garbage. So
I mean, some of the functionality in here and some of the code cleanup in here is definitely for sure useful. And I think having that functionality, even in like a POC, like proof of concept, or just like trial run 1, like a dirty trial run or something, I think that's super useful.
It's useful in the moment, but we have to like, I guess, look, we've said every week at this point, but this thing is helpful because you basically get to hear why this thing changed at this point right now, because I'm just going to be throwing together code really quickly, and not writing up a giant thing in a pull request for it. And like, today we have for you a feature where the player list updates or whatever. It's like the commit is just WIP.
It's whip.
Whip.
I actually didn't realize it was supposed to be WIP. I just read it as whip, and I was like, "Oh, Joseph, you silly guy!" And then when you said it was WIP, I'm like, "I'm so stupid."
I mean, I don't capitalize it, so it's not your fault for reading it as whip.
I mean, it's missing the H, so I probably shouldn't have read it as whip.
Yeah.
But did you want to go over it real quick? Just kind of like what it's for, stuff like that.
So I've broken the game once again.
You removed all the game part of the game.
No, so Yazeed had previously written some logic to fetch. I think you mentioned it last week, right? Mm-hmm. The dictionary and all that stuff. So basically, it's just some URL that contains a list of a bunch of words in the English dictionary, and it would download that file and basically just give you words from it when you asked for them. So I restructured that a little bit, and I don't know if we had caching, right? The whole local caching before. Yeah. So just kind of moved some of that stuff around and made a bunch of I made a generate name util, which is based on that dictionary stuff. Moved it into like a common util directory, and that stuff's not finished quite yet, but kind of a progress towards what we made, or what we mentioned last week about wanting to have a common Homegames thing. So it's like common game node, common colors, that kind of stuff. And then the point of that was because on the game session now, on the Connect, the game session kind of put in some attributes, kind of Homegames wide attributes, which in this case is just a name, and there's also an ID. The player object, the player class, has a ID and a name and some other stuff, and basically games can just kind of read that, and the slaps game game only knows about name right now. Like none of the other ones try to get the game name, the player name or anything like that. But I mean some like I said, Homegames wide attributes. So basically randomly generate a name, give it to the game, and then in this case slaps, the card game that we have, is showing each player their name in the top right corner, and then in the top left corner is a list of every player in the game, which includes your name and then everybody else in there. So that's why it's called player list. It was just me. It's kind of like a work in progress branch. It's not really what I want to put into the main master branch. I think the master branch should just have a cleaned up version of this with a finished version of the card game.
I mean, I agree about the master branch probably not getting this update yet. I actually don't remember if you mentioned this, but it does. That list does update as players are added and removed.
Right.
So go ahead.
I mean, like if you refresh, for example, that's a disconnect and reconnect. So it'll see you as a new player. So if you refresh, it'll just update your name every time. That player list will update every time. It keeps the people in the player list in order of when they joined. So if it was player 1, player 2, and then player 1 leaves, player 2 gets their name in the top of the thing, and they're the only person in the list, kind of stuff. Like it'll update. One thing that I think is pretty important in there for the performance and kind of just interaction with the tree, the game tree, is the slaps game will now basically cache its nodes. So it's like, okay, well, I have one node under the base that contains all the player info. I have one node under the base that will contain my the player info nodes. So like the player info panel, and then another one that contains I guess I don't know how to describe the tree in this case, but it's just like the one long thing, one branch from each.
Mm-hmm.
And each one of those is a player's info thing. So each of those are just rendered each. Anyway, the point is, since it caches those, it's able to say this.base.clear children except for my cached nodes. So we're able to kind of keep the the player info panel available for all states of the UI easily and stuff like that. So I think that's pretty like kind of a good step towards what I think the interface should be for interacting with the tree.
Yeah, I agree. The other thing too is like having the ability to display all the players is something we never previously had. So that's
Sorry, the ability to make what?
like have like to display the characters, like the player name. Sorry.
Oh yeah. Like info just for you, stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, it's super cool. And I think, well, there's definitely a bug in the current version. You can also start a new game, and it'll put up a little banner of who won, but then it won't start up a new game. And it's just like very right now at this moment. I'll probably fix that bug either today or tomorrow or sometime whenever. But I know what the problem is. I just haven't finished the bug fix.
Nice. Yeah. The other thing, this is like kind of like tangent, but one thing I think we should go over is like the not workflow because it's not work, but like from setup to playing a game, like what does that flow look like? Like, is it like start services, connect, pick game, wait for other people to connect, game starts, or is it less rigid, or those orders flipped, or anything like that? I know we said we wanted to finish the game first, then kind of like do some of the other stuff, but that might actually be a good idea to start fleshing out kind of like the flow of like playing from like start to end, not end, but like from start to like playing the game as a group.
You mean what I think that process should look like?
Yeah.
Okay. I think when a player connects to homegames.link, that service is telling the client the private IP of the instance that is running the master game server. The master game server is responsible for saying, I have these players, essentially what the game server does now, the current game server, says, hey, I have these players that have these names, it's these IDs, and these are all of my, basically all the WebSocket clients. And I think that should render something that has, it's built in home game, so I think it should always render in the game server, or not in the game server, but in the master server in this case, and use the squisher to give the client a UI. And that UI should be a list of games that are available to play in that home games, you'd call it a cluster. I don't know. It's a server making servers. Whatever. Anyway, call it a home games cluster because I don't know tech guy stuff. So that server is then saying, you can play this. You click on this, and it will create an instance. Basically, it has like a pool of ports it can use on the local server. So that, okay, well, the home games port range is 7100 to 7200, so we can hypothetically spin up to 100 instances of home games here, and then it'll be responsible for allocating a port from that pool, keeping kind of track of who's in that game server's thing. It's basically just like a manager version of the current game server that we have, and it creates other game servers and spins them up and brings them down, and each one of those is exactly what our game server is today, which is, except for managing all the player info, it just runs a game with some config, like what's my target resolution, or like what's my render resolution at, or whatever, stuff like that, which is what I think the arguments are currently there, but it doesn't actually respect them today. But I don't remember.
I don't think it like the resolution, no, but like screen size and stuff, yes. So
screen size on the client, but I think because I want to be able to say this game renders internally at like 1920 by 1080, and so the game will scale up to whatever or scale down to whatever on the client, but the person making a game should have a target resolution. So like I think there's 320, 240 or something like that today if you go to the arguments to game session, but I don't remember if the game actually cares, or the squisher actually cares.
I'm not sure. I would have to check as well. That makes sense. Also, I like that flow. I don't think I had anything really like to add to it actually.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Well, I don't know about perfect, but like as we start to like go through it, we'll probably catch some stuff. Also, I got really loud. I'm gonna scoot back a little bit.
But I think in the long run that's what it should be. But I think over the text, when I sent you that like barrage of a dozen text messages, and it was, I think that in the long run we'll need this, but we should just ditch it all right now, because I don't think building a dashboard proof of concept using just a game node instead of a new game server would really benefit us, because we'd have to scrap it all in the long run because it would never really work.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I was saying. Like, we can probably address this later, like in terms of like actually like planning it out and like implementation. But maybe just getting like a rough idea of what we were thinking, and then finish the game out, because finishing that game out is probably the best thing for us right now.
Sure. Yeah, I think we're close. I think, like you mentioned last week, but we are super close to getting the card game finished. And if that thing is done, we have kind of a lot of groundwork there to start branching out. And then I think my focus after getting that first game out will be, I really want you to build a game. Like, once I think that we have something there, and I kind of want to just not give you any guidance really, and be like, hey, use these tools to build something, like on your own, and kind of see what your feedback is, and then we can go from there. In the meantime, I really want to start working on rewriting that squisher, because I think that's some of the worst, or not worst, I mean, I think it's some of the least readable code I've ever written.
There's a lot of magic numbers in there, I will say.
I attempted to document what those magic numbers are. At the top of the squisher, there's a comment that just says, game node, then the size, information type or whatever, and then the size. So like game node size 1, game node type 1, and it's just like, okay, these are all these numbers that I'm adding up to create this array of this size, and then here's all these checks to tell if these things are in there. I think that whole thing just needs to be cleaned up. It would also be nice for testing in the long run if it was like a common thing that can be used by both the server and the client, and kind of like a serialized, deserialized thing, and then just ensure that everything that a game node can be, with the exception of the events and all that kind of whatever stuff like that. So like no on-click, obviously you can't serialize that, but things like that should be easily testable, because testing the squisher now is a nightmare.
Yeah, so like compartmentalizing it a little bit more, like breaking it apart a little bit.
Yeah, I think the game node's already split up, and the squisher's already separate. I think just kind of streamlining all that kind of connection there, because it's really just a big jumbled mess.
Yeah, okay. So does that mean we want to change the like 1, 2, 4 weeks thing that we talked about last week, and changing it to being like, this week we want to finish the card game, 2 weeks out maybe I have a game, and then 4 weeks out we have the squish rework?
So kind of 1 week is the progress setter for the game implementation?
Yeah.
Sure, I think that works. Because after that, I don't really know what we want to do.
Yeah, I mean, well, one of the things you mentioned was, like, I try to build a game. Like, we put the dashboard on hold, basically, and we say, like, okay, let's just focus on how you build games and, like, what goes into building a game. So we say, okay, finish this implementation of a game. So we have, like, the player list, the game itself, like, a winner is decided. You can make a new game. People can join. And then up to, like, there has to be a limit, right? Because it's a card game. There's only 52 cards in a deck. Mm-hmm. So we have to also, like, now limit the number of players on there, like, for that game, and kind of figuring out how to do that as well. And then we go through the whole flow for this game, and then we say, okay, like, Yazeed is going to start making a game, and, like, just kind of, like, piece together, like, what we're missing still, what I still need, stuff like that. And then in the meantime, you can rework the squisher so that as I have a list of things that we need, we can take a look at, like, the reworking of the squisher and say, like, okay, we need to add this piece, or we can remove this piece, like, we don't need it or anything like that, something like that.
Yeah, I think your feedback for that whole process is kind of critical for the rewrite of the Squisher, because otherwise it'll be a rewrite of the rewrite of the Squisher.
I guess then to start it out with, do we have like MVP of what the Senovia team looks like? It's like slaps or something is what it's called.
She calls it slaps. I don't know why. I don't know what it's called, but I guess that's the name of the game. What?
It's a threat. Just slaps, because that's what you're gonna get when she beats you.
Yeah, when I don't deliver to her expectations, she'll just beat me up. No, that's she's actually very nice.
That's very false. I've never seen Senovia hurt anyone, although she has threatened me with violence. Just saying.
Everyone has. Everyone you've ever met has threatened you with violence. You just have that kind of a vibe.
When people ask for vibe checks, I just duck. Vibe check, I just duck. No. So do we have like an idea of like what the final version of the game is supposed to be, or not final, but like what when we say like this is good enough, like this is what somebody could play?
I don't think so, but I think since Senovia is kind of the visionary behind this in particular game, we should kind of get her idea of what she would want to see, especially because she doesn't have all of the mental limitations that we do of like, well, I can't make that 2 colors. Are you crazy? Like, she'll just kind of give us a reasonable idea of what a person would want out of what we're currently doing.
Can you get her?
Hi.
Hello.
Do I need to introduce myself again?
This is Senovia.
No. Okay, thank you.
She's project manager, smart person. She's in charge of Joseph, which means that she's also in charge of me. My proxy.
Joseph, so.
A lot of responsibility riding on Senovia, really.
So what's the thing with the game? What I just want to accomplish? Or wait.
So just so you know, Senovia, like you're like super quiet. I think you're gonna like kind of shout a little bit more or get closer. Yeah, thank you. And then.
Can you hear me now?
No.
Oh, he can't hear me.
No, I can hear you. You're just super quiet.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay.
Wait, I heard you say, "Can you hear me?" But it was so quiet. Anyway.
Oh, see, now I can't hear you.
Oh, really?
Oh, no, I can hear you. I can hear you now. Okay, I got it.
Oh, yeah.
This is the
for
mess.
some reason, like, our mics don't cut out for, like, the recording, but it does cut out when we're sending it to each other, and we haven't figured out why. But anyway, so the main question is, like, what does the finished version of the Slaps card game look like for you?
So it's basically just revealing 2 cards, and then whoever has the highest card wins, right?
Right.
Well, I would think that it looks like a card game. Like it's like on like a poker table or something. And I mean, this is all like design elements, but like it's a poker table, and then they just flip the cards. So you see like the back of them, and then they flip. And then whoever wins that, it's like, boom, you're the winner.
So, wait. So, can the players see what cards they have before they flip?
So, I don't think anyone should be able to see their cards. It's basically like if you join the game, you just see the back side of your card. So it's upside down, and then everyone else who joins doesn't see their card. And then like you press the button that says flip or whatever, and then boom, they all flip, and then the winner is like revealed.
Okay, so then a couple questions then. So the maximum number of players in that game is like 52 divided by 2, right? Whatever that number is, like 26 or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 26 players is max. So what you would, like, as players trickle in, they just get dealt out 2 cards randomly from, like, whatever's left of the deck at that point. Once the number of players is joined, you have a button that's on the screen that just says flip.
Yeah.
Right? Well, then who controls that flip button?
Well, it could be like, like everyone has access to it, but or maybe it's not necessarily a flip button, but more of like a like the all players are in button or like a ready button, so that once all your players are in, then the cards get flipped and no one else can join at that moment.
Okay. Well then, so should we instead not deal out cards until everyone's joined and then just have a start button? That start button deals out 2 cards to everybody and then flips them over.
That would be fine.
Okay.
I think that would work too.
Yeah, because I think it would be a little bit more complicated if we had not that it's like impossible. It's just like if anybody can hit the like flip button, that we run into problems where like somebody wants to join, like all the cards have been flipped, so like we have to lock them out. And then the next question is, when you hit the new button, we reshuffle the deck, dish them back out to everybody that's in there once the start button's hit again, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then when so you don't get to see anyone else's cards then, right? So it's just you and your cards.
You only see everyone's cards when all of the cards are flipped. So it's not like when you join, you see your card, but you don't see anyone else's.
So then we would need to have like
everyone.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's like everyone doesn't know what any of the cards are.
Okay. So then you would need to have like a display or something where it's like player Senovia and her 2 cards, player Joseph and his 2 cards, player Yazeed and his 2 cards. Okay.
Yep.
And then from there, we like highlight in like a box or something like which the winning hand was.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so that I think resolves quite a bit of that. So then when you were showing it, like if you're on a phone or something like that, it's got to be like a pretty condensed screen. So we're just going to have like tiny versions of the cards, or are we okay with doing like suit and then, what's it called?
Number?
Yeah, thank you. Like we wouldn't use like 13 or whatever. It'd be like your suit and then your rank. There we go. So it'd be like 2 through ace, for example.
Oh, I see.
Or do we want the like card backing?
Do we want it to look like a little card?
Yeah. Because the way I was thinking about it is like when you hit 26 players, they'd be real small cards.
Yeah, they'll be super small. Unless... unless it just shows your card. Like if we... No, never mind.
Should it show your card and then the winner, maybe? Instead of everybody's?
But, so, if I'm on mobile, it would have to be the exact same as the computer.
Well, it doesn't have to be, because we could, you want to ask Joseph that, actually. I don't know.
Because, like, this sounds dumb, but, like, I play solitaire on my phone, and, like, the cards are tiny. But the card is just, like, the number and then the suit. Mm-hmm. So it's a much more, like, condensed version of a card. So we could do that instead of, like, drawing each of, like, the suits or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because, like, having... like, it's okay if we draw the suit or something. Because, like, they're pretty different from each other. It's just if we had to do, like, a whole card with a whole card back. And that, like, gets flipped over and stuff like that. And that's going to look... very small when you hit like 26 players and on mobile.
Yeah, but like, is there gonna be 26 players?
I mean that's the maximum. So you kind of have to like address from the minimum, which would be 1, all the way up to the maximum of 26, I think. I don't know. We could also ask Joseph, because the other idea I had is like maybe there's like a scroll where it's like it'll always put you in the top left, and then right to the right of that is the winning hand. And then down below is like everyone else's. But then you'd have to have like a rank for how everyone else shows up, either like alphabetically or like how they stacked up versus you and the winner. Or we could swap it where it was like winning hand in the upper left and then everyone's hand like down the stack. Like basically like order it from like rank, like hand strength, if that makes sense.
And each of the cards is like somehow like marked that it's a specific person's card.
Yeah, so
like a border color or a name or something.
Yeah. I'm gonna mute myself real quick and type so that I can kind of draw it out, because the other problem is like as I type, it's gonna like make a lot of noise and
Okay.
just gonna have to cut it. So you can keep talking. I'm just gonna mute myself
Okay.
real quick.
What's up, guys? This is Senovia. I'm part of the Homegames. Not really a part of this, but they think I'm the manager. I don't know what I'm doing. Don't know if I'm screaming. Don't know if I'm quiet. Ask me these questions. I don't know the answers. He's asking how we should like display the cards.
Yeah, so if you look at the I just sent like on Discord, what it says is like it's like person A and then spade 5, diamond 4, and then person will be spade 7, diamond 10. Where we would replace spade and diamond with like the little picture of a spade, and the diamond would be a little picture of a diamond.
But like on a card? Or it just says like a heart and then the number
5.
4.
I was thinking just like a heart and the number 5, but we could still do a card. The only reason I'm hesitant to say card is just it's like you're gonna have like a tight area, right? Where it's like on screen on like a mobile, it's gonna look very condensed, and then like on a tablet, it'll look bigger, and then like on a monitor, it'll look even bigger. Mm-hmm. So like just managing like as it shrinks and resizes. But Joseph may also have an idea of like how I want to do that, and we can ask him as well.
What was the question?
So the issue is, do we make cards or do we not make cards? It sounds like Senovia is very into the idea of cards. So the idea would be like, I'm like, what I'm running into mentally is like on monitor, right? If you have 26 players, the cards are going to look like a certain size. When you shrink down to like a tablet, it's going to look smaller. And when you shrink down to a phone, you have to like shrink those cards so much. At 26 players and shrinking those cards, like at what point does it become easier to just do like under each player's name is just like their suits, like a spade, and then the rank, so it'd just be like a K for king or like a 5 for the number 5? Or do we not ever do that and it's always a card that's just shrunk down?
I think at a certain point, because like 26 is the number assuming every player would get 2 cards.
Yeah, that's the maximum players for slabs per Senovia, because there's 2 cards per person.
Well, 26 just seems like one of those things where the game at a certain point would have to scale out, and like if it has the table, then everybody would either view their own part of the table or everybody would view the entire table, and then it would zoom into the thing everybody's looking at. So I think that seems intense, and I don't think in any world anybody would get 25 friends together and go be like, let's play card games on our phone. So maybe the reasonable limit for this is 8 or something.
Maybe.
And
well, like you could. Yeah, I guess. In my head, this would be a pretty easy drinking game, right?
I mean, it'd be an easy drinking game because it would move quick.
It'd be very fast. There's a lot of drinking. It's just like a game of shots.
Yeah, everyone would be dead within 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know. I think we should have like a smaller limit, and then we'll be able to know what the UI would look like more. It's just a simple player list. It probably should be like thinner. Mm-hmm. And then I think we should have card images, because unless like cards are copyrighted or something by Bicycle, in which case we should all make our own cards. You know, like funny pictures of all of us or something, custom deck, and import the assets into Homegames. It'll be like a custom card deck that we actually build.
We could.
Be fun. Senovia, what do you think?
I mean, if it's just like a little white rectangle and it just says like the picture, or if it just has the picture and then the number, I think that's enough to be a card.
Sure.
Yeah, no. So like that, I agree with. What I didn't want was it for it to be like the little picture of the king in the top right and the top left, and then like the king in the center. You know what I mean?
You don't want like the real card.
Well, I think just having the real card is a lot.
Well, I mean, not if
it's only 8 people, that does change it because that's easier to manage. But I was thinking at like 26 people, if you have that, you have to now fit like, what is that, like 8 kings or whatever? Well, yeah, 8 queens on screen. It's simultaneously like 8 of each card simultaneously.
If it's just, I mean, 2 cards, 8, and then you just need 2 columns of 4 rows. And you could fit 2 columns, 4 rows in the middle of a reasonable widescreen.
It's also 4 of each. No, I'm so sorry.
It'd just be like something, I don't know, I'm just saying something small. Show cards, because it doesn't matter. Any image that we show is just an asset as long as we have the asset. Like, we can have a static image display.
Yeah.
So if we wanted to, we can go and download JPEGs of the entire deck and put all of them in the game today. But... Mm-hmm. It's just like, should we? It seems like Senovia is okay with a simple representation in order to kind of allow for the squishing of what needs to happen when it becomes a high player amount. And Yazeed, it seems like you don't want the full image because it just seems like the detail in that would have to require a certain width to show on the screen.
Yeah, I think it would.
It's valid because like yeah, we don't think that it's going to be 26 people joining and playing this game, but then where do we draw the limit of like, are we putting like max player number or whatever?
Right.
And we don't really want to do that if it's a mobile game that anyone can join. So
yeah, but like, I
actually like the idea of like everyone when they join has their card. And maybe it could be like, as soon as you join, you see your card, but no one else knows what your card is or whatever. And then when everyone is ready and like is in the game, you press a button, and then boom, the winning card shows up on your computer or phone or whatever, and it's like, this person won.
So everybody just sees one card?
Everyone sees their own card, and then you click a button, and then everyone sees the same winning card.
Okay.
That might be easier. So then you're only creating one like card template, and so that's pretty universal on computer or phone or whatever.
I like that. Z, do you like that?
Yeah, I like that a lot actually. Yeah, so like the other idea that we had previously, I don't know if you probably heard it, Joseph, but like just to reiterate real quick, was like everyone joins and there's like a start button which just deals 2 cards out to people and then flips them, and then it just gives like the whole breakdown of where you ranked in terms of like everybody. But I like this idea more, where you join, you get dealt out your 2 cards, and then there's a ready button, and once everyone's hit the ready button, it's like bam, there you go, everyone's ready to go.
So the current game logic is 1 card. I didn't know the rules were 2 cards. Is it the sum of the 2 cards, or is it the highest of your 2 cards?
That would be a question for Senovia. I have no idea.
How does that game work, Boo?
Slapjack?
Is that what it's called?
Well, Slapjack is you have a deck, you have half a deck, and the other person has half a deck. And then you flip the card, and then they flip a card, and then the person with the highest card gets all the cards.
So it's 1 card, not 2 cards?
It's 1 card.
Okay. So then it's just the highest value of that 1 card.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then our upper limit is 52, not 26.
Everyone gets 1 card?
I guess, yeah.
That's how you play Slapjack, right?
I've never played a card game in my life. I don't talk to
people.
You don't know how to play?
No. Okay, this is the problem. You guys don't know how to play cards.
I also don't know how to play cards.
You call it Slapjack. We've been calling it Slaps this whole time. I don't...
Joseph has been calling it Slaps this whole time.
You called it Slaps.
Are you 80? It's not called Slaps. It's called Slapjack.
I just listened to you. That's my fault.
That's your fault. See, this is your fault. But no, like that's so like if it's me and you playing, you get half the deck, I get half the deck, and then they're covered to us. We have no idea what we're gonna flip, and then you flip it, and then let's say you put down a 3 and I put down a king, I win the cards, and when I have all my cards, I win all the cards, I win. But now you don't need to put this in the game, but in Slapjack, if I put down a jack and you slap it, then you get the cards.
Oh, that's why it's called Slapjack.
Yeah.
Okay. So how about this is just a simple version where everybody
don't
gets
do
the one
slapping
card,
part.
and we could definitely scale it up to 52 if we wanted to. Or everybody just gets one card center of the screen. At the end of it, you all hit, or someone hits a button and everybody sees the winner's card and the winner's name. And
I think
maybe. Huh?
I don't think you can give one person the power. I think what you need to do is give everybody a ready button.
Your mic cut out.
Oh, shoot. Oh, you know what? Discord didn't pick that up. So I'll just pay attention to that. But what I was saying was that I don't think you can have one button that's just one person has to hit to flip every card over. I think you have to have a ready button where everyone gets dealt with the card, gets their card, sees it, hits the ready button.
What's the value in readying up, though? Because everybody doesn't really have a... I see what you're saying. Like, it seems weird to just allow someone to just hit the button at first, but there's no value to a ready button. You see your number and you're just waiting.
So my thinking is...
Because there is value in that because... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Senovia, go ahead.
Senovia,
Give me a second to think about how to word it.
Because there is value because then what's stopping someone from joining late, seeing their card and winning?
If you join while the deck has already started the deal, you would wait in a queue for the next go. If you show up to the table while the dealer's dealing, you don't join like immediately.
But you can though. That's the thing. If
Not
there's
in
a
my
table
world.
of 5 people and only 4 of them are sitting, and the person is giving out the card, if someone sits right there, we should give them a card. So it should be like you join, you see your card, and you click a button that says, okay, I'm good. And then that person, and then Yazeed joins, he sees his card, he's like, okay, I'm good. And then I join, I see my card, okay, I'm good. That's everyone?
But in that first case, when the first person was sitting by themselves, or the 2 people were sitting by themselves, those 2 people both said, I'm good, and then the third person walked up. What happens?
Same thing. You need a queue still. You might be right.
You need a queue.
The only thing is, like, who would you give the ready button to? Or the go button for? To?
I think it should not be a ready button. It should just be a timer. Everybody gets their card at the same time, and it counts down from 3.
But then as people join, how would that work? If it takes like 5 seconds to like for somebody to like get their phone out and everything.
It's not really a real dealing scenario because there's no person like allocating cards to every person at the table. There is no.
It kind of is because the game will deal cards out as you join.
As you join, oh, okay. Well, the current thing is like there is a new game button, and it's whoever is currently in the game is playing, which is like different from a real dealer because there's no real scenario where I am dealing and someone walks up. Because
so you're saying everyone would join, and then the game would start, as opposed to people are joining after the game has started.
Yeah, there's like a group-wide new hand. And so in that process of dealing, instead of one person with one arm going to 5 people, it's one person with 5 arms slamming the cards down at one time. So there's no real room for someone to walk up in that
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so yeah, to like briefly explain my confusion on that was I thought people were joining like in the game state. It's like as the game is being run, you could join until everyone had joined, and then there would be everyone ready up, and then it would go to the next step.
That sounds like a thing where someone joins and then that person is seeing an animation to like get a card dealt to them, and no one else is seeing that, and no one else really knows what's going on.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, the bigger issue then would be just like how do you deal with the like I think you're right about the queue. Basically, like if you join in between the game starting and the game getting and like start and like restarting, you're just a spectator. Like you're just watching. You aren't dealt the cards.
if you join after whoever hit new game and game is happening, everyone else is waiting for the next round of new game.
Yeah.
Which to me, I still think should be okay. Well, a game lasts 5 seconds because we all hit the thing and saw our card. A timer started. It was 3 seconds long. All of us saw who won. Maybe there's one frame or like one thing afterwards that has the board of everyone in the game and all their points up to this point. And then it goes back to a new game thing. And then everybody who was in the queue is able to play in that new game.
I like that. Yeah.
That time spent is less than 10 seconds.
Is Senovia okay with it? I'm okay with it.
Yeah. That sounds good to me.
That sounds super doable too.
Yeah. I like that idea. Like the queue idea. It's really nice. Next question is, are we dropping the idea of the poker table, or are we still keeping the poker table?
You asking about the table?
Yeah.
You should talk to Senovia. I don't know.
Okay.
You were the creative director, my love.
How do you put this?
They just flop, so just put them on the...
This is broken.
No. Right side.
No, it's not. What is this? Okay, what was the question?
The question was, are we still keeping the poker table, or are we just going to drop the poker table if we're going to only show you your card and then the winning card? And the winning card.
Yeah, if you're only showing one card, then it could probably just be just the card, so no poker table.
Okay, so then... well, I mean, we can do like the traditionally what is teal or whatever the poker
like
table.
Like that green.
Yeah, that hilarious green color that poker tables are. We could still put that as the background color so that the cards pop a little bit more. And also, if we're only showing one card at a time, we can do a full card. We don't have to worry about it anymore. So that kind of resolves all of that. Are you good with the queue and everything that Joe's was talking about?
Yeah, no, that actually makes a lot of sense. So
yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty good. Basically what we wanted to do is find out what done for the card game was, so that we could decide if we had hit completion for that card game, and we could go on to the next step. And then so your screen, when you get your card dealt to you, would have your name in the top, then your card. When it flips, it would show the winner's name and their card, right? Or would it do a side by side of your name, your card, and then next set is winner's name, winner's card?
Oh,
I like the second one a little bit more.
I do too. Because then you could just forget what kind of card you had and then be like, well, I don't know if I lost or not. So
yeah, I mean, the other thing too is that becomes a weird UI design thing issue where you think your name changed because your card changed just randomly if you're not paying attention.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so
no, I like the side by side. So
okay, I like that idea as well. And then the other thing is what Joseph said at the end there about the leaderboard, where it's just a grid of player names and then how many rounds they've won. Is that okay?
Wait, say that again.
So what Joseph said at the end there, what he was saying, where there was a leaderboard for this session. So it'd be Senovia has won 3 rounds, Joseph has won 2 rounds, Yazeed has won 0 rounds, or whatever. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, and all that would still be with the background of the poker table, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I think that is everything actually. Cool. I don't know if Joseph had any other questions for you.
Do you have any questions for me?
No.
Okay. He doesn't.
All right. Thank you, Senovia.
Thank you, guys. Get to work. I'm not paying you to lay around. Be on this podcast. Bye, guys.
Bye. See ya. Hello.
It's gonna be a little rough until we get Senovia her own audio set up because I can't hear what you say in that. It's gonna be a little rough. It's gonna be a little rough in the meantime until we get our own setup because I can't hear what you say in that time.
Yeah, to give you like a quick rundown, the idea is that so the idea is that the game starts, your name is at the top, and then your card on like a poker table colored background. Then when the cards flip, so everyone's cards in theory would be visible in like the real game. What it would show is like your name, your card, and then to the right of that, the winner's name and their card. And then it would switch to the like leaderboard view that you had talked about, where it's still on that poker table colored background, and then like Senovia 4 rounds 1, Joseph 2 rounds 1, Yazeed 1 round 1, or whatever.
Sure.
And it's like that, I think, finishes the game. And also, it's called Slapjack, which we've been totally wrong for 3 podcasts now.
That's fine. I mean, like, we're not really card game people,
no.
you know, so.
No, not. I like roulette and the machines. The slot machines.
I like machines. Her 2019.
Cool. Yeah. So I think that if that completes our Slapjack, that does finish. It does mean we're actually pretty darn close, right? We just need to do like the UI of like player's name, card, and then teal background, which is pretty easy for us. And then the last one is the leaderboard, right?
Yeah, I think all those transitions between different states and viewing different things, and like I already mentioned earlier, kind of caching the info panel node, that all seems kind of like startings for what we can abstract out into some sort of game engine type thing. Changing between different types of states and kind of all that different thing. It seems pretty good. So I think building this seems pretty doable, and then kind of expanding on top of that seems good. Very doable as well.
Nice. Yeah. So I think that ends that. Nice.